Hello guys, and welcome to the second part of
Oh,
the
yeah.
Sapien series we talked about with Mech. If you saw the previous video, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't see the previous video and this is the first one you're seeing, just know that there's a lot more of these bad boys around that you can go see yourself if you want more information.
Yeah.
But right now we have game number 2 of today's analysis for Mr. Sapien here. This is another Mech game.
Oh, yeah.
We'll, you know, I don't really feel like I need to spoil it. We'll just get into it. We'll see how it's going. We'll break it down as it goes. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. And Sapien also triggered our subathon, which is why you're hearing all the oh yeahs. Thank you again to Sapien for the gifted subs on the Twitch channel. Much love, man. Much love. Alright. Okay, let's get into it. We got a gas. We got a pool coming down. 16, 18, 17. It's standard. It's fine. It's all good. Again, if I had to critique it in any way, it's super minor. Doesn't matter that much, but I would say 17, 18, 17 against Terran would be slightly better because you would have a tiny bit more uptime on a drone on a mineral patch. And it's not really going to change anything about your natural because Terran doesn't really block your natural like that. So that's just my little tiny critique, but it's, again, if you're a Zerg out there, Sapien included, or anyone else, and you're like, I fucking love 16 hatch vibe, okay, don't take that away from me. Go for it. It's not a big deal. Yo, Burry, thank you for the bits, dude. Thank you for the bits, Burry. Okay. Alright, yo, Seth. You need to cool your jets. Oh my god, I can't do it. 1 second. Sorry, chat. Give me 1 sec. There we go. Fuck yeah. Sorry, this is a YouTube video. I just had to ban someone in my stream for 1 hour. He was basically like a little dog barking in my ear for too long. Had to be done. I don't think I could have given a proper analysis unless I did that. Alright, so we got Overlord speed is probably going to be again the same thing this game. We got Zergling speed on the way. We got 2 queens out. This is kind of once again the same thing though as last game, right? Look at the larva. This is going to be something similar to last game where we have a third base going down really fast. Simultaneously, we also have gas being mined constantly. And I'll say the same thing again last game. I won't harp on it as long, but I'll just say, would love it, once again, if you had a drone sitting there rather than building a hatchery, and then you prioritized getting another queen out and spinning your larva, and then once you had the money, then you build it, and your drone's already here, so you don't have to run past a Reaper. That's just my, yeah, it'll be way more efficient. Because now, if you spin the larva, which you kind of are, you're just skipping a queen now. Which is gonna, but here's the thing, right? I was about to say, if you don't make a queen, you're gonna lack on the creep spread, but because you are not making a queen, and now you're also getting an inject, now what you're doing is you're skipping the inject. Or you're, sorry, what did I just say? You're making a creep tumor, and you're skipping the queen, now you're just missing the inject. So your build is falling behind again, even though it seems like it's not, because you're like, oh, I got a third fast. This is more impactful to your economy faster than this is. So this actually slows you down. Also, I would have loved it. Here's another thing too. I would have loved it if this Overlord, as soon as it got here, here's a tip for any Zerg out there, okay? If you are using an Overlord and you scout a Terran's base, Bacon Particles, thank you for the Twitch Prime. Love you, man. You fucking beast. If you are scouting a Terran's base with a Reaper, okay? You already know your Overlord cannot die, especially on a map like this, where this is a high ground spot. It's impossible, fucking impossible, for your Overlord to die if you now scout to the edge of his ramp and see what he's doing. He will never have enough Marines to kill your Overlord. The only way he could kill your Overlord is if he made a Marine and then he literally like floated the barracks and was like, ha ha, let's fucking go, Overlord. But if your Overlord were to sit here or not sit here and scout the ramp, it would die either way anyways, because the Marine would be chasing you with the barracks no matter what. So it wouldn't matter, if you get what I mean. Like, if that's really what he wants to do, whether or not you move it to the ramp or leave it here, it's dead either way. If he floats a building. So yeah, if you see a Reaper, you should 100% always scout the ramp. The only time you should ever feel worried about not wanting to get that information early on the ramp is if you see nothing out of the barracks come out, if you don't see a Reaper at all, and you're like, shit, he might be going multiple Marines. And then you also don't see a natural, and you're like, even then though, I would still scout it most of the time, but you know, your Overlord could die then. It'd be like you're playing against someone like Rough or something. Someone who just does awkward builds. But let's see, let's just look at this really fast. What information are you missing out on? Your Overlord gets here right now, okay, and it's chilling. This vision could have been scouted to there, seriously, in 4 seconds. At 220, you would see probably the edge of the building as to whatever's on top of the ramp right now. What would we see? We would see a barracks that is making a unit again. It's going to be a Marine, but we would see a Marine possibly pop out. Oh, we wouldn't see it pop out, but we might see the Marine come back and shoot the Overlord because it's going to pop out of the south side. And right now, you would barely see the north side. Okay. You would also see, if you scout your Overlord down a little bit, you would see that he's got a factory starting right now, so you can already rule out 211. You would see that this barracks is placed in a position where it is going to have to lift off to relocate itself to put an add-on on. So, you know, it's something to note. It's just something to look for in a second. And then you would also see, but here's the thing, right? If let's just say he does not lift it off and he makes another unit. Like you have one Marine now starting to shoot your Overlord and the barracks is still producing a unit. And you're like, oh, there's a factory being built and he's not actually making an add-on. That would be more information. That would tell you that he's probably not going to go Hellions because he's not making a reactor. And if he is going to go Hellions, they're going to be really delayed now because he's going to have to wait on a reactor for longer because a factory and a reactor build time are similar, very similar. It's like an 8-second difference. And then command center, it would also be here. So you would know that this is not some type of an all-in and you're good to go. And there's no way, fucking zero way your Overlord would die. Again, unless he floated the barracks to the cliff here, if he made a Reaper first. Because one Marine will not kill an Overlord if he were to aggro you. Let's say it rallied like this, north, okay? The Marine rallied down the ramp and it started shooting your Overlord immediately. And you saw the edge of his factory and the edge of his command center and went, all right, go back to the cliff. You would still get on the high ground here with probably like 60 hit points left. Or like 80 even. You would get back there with a lot. Like almost half, but you would probably take a little bit more than half if your Overlord was like here and then turned around. Because your Overlord would not be coming from here right now as the Marine spawns. It would already be like right here instead of just chilling up here. Or it would be like right there, sorry. 4 seconds of move time, it would put the Overlord from right here to like right there. Somewhere in this box. So, yeah, you would not lose the Overlord. And this is just once again, I think your scouting is so just, I think your biggest problem, seriously, Sapien, is you're putting yourself in this like, I'm only gonna rely on Overlord speed and that's it. And you really shouldn't do that to yourself. You're missing out on so many other opportunities to scout him and like rationally break down your opponent's build. As opposed to just every single game going, you know what, I'm just gonna tuck an Overlord away to the high ground and never scout him again until Overlord speed's done, and then I'll scout everything. Because there's a lot of information you're gonna miss out on early in the game that can also change the pace of the game. Potentially. Like, what if this guy was actually just proxying you with like 3 racks right now? What if there was like, it was like a depot, barracks, a depot, and he made a Reaper? And then there was like nothing there, nothing. And then you went to his, you like, let's just say you flew into his main and a second Reaper popped out of his barracks as he did that. And it was like 2 gases fully mining and he had no factory in his main. And you're just over here cranking out drones and suddenly like there's 3 more racks over here with proxy Reapers. And you're like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, it's important to get some type of information.
Armed forces under attack. Newly birthed queen.
Yeah, I think you're. I'm just watching your spinning again. I think you're not. I think what you should also start doing, if you're not already doing it, is you don't have to do this all game, okay? You do not have to do this all game. Just in the start of the game, just at the start, I want you to get in the habit of being like 4 SD, 4 SD, 4 SD, 4 SD, 4 S, or whatever the fuck Overlord Hockey is. I changed mine to V. Or is it V? I think V is actually the default. Anyways, whatever. But yeah, get in the habit of like rolling your hand on the keyboard and just glancing at your supply and trying not to supply block. But like this is what I'm talking about. The Reaper comes into your base, right? Where the fuck is it? Right now, okay? Right now, Reaper comes into your base. Look at your money. You have enough money right now to spend your larva. Okay, you just spent some larva on an Overlord. I like it. That's good. This is a good time to make an Overlord. I approve of that. But now watch the Reaper and watch your money and watch your larva. You can make a drone. You did make a drone. You can make a drone again right now. You're not doing it. Reaper's in your base. You can make 2 drones right now. You're not doing it. You can make 3 drones right now. You're not doing it. You can make 4 drones right now. 5 drones right now. You're not doing it. Things like this could be fixed by seriously just getting in the habit of seriously. You just do this, okay? SD, 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 SD. You just make it a habit. Roll your hand on the keyboard like that. And you don't even think about it. You just fucking do it. It's like brainless. It's just something that you go, I'm going to teach myself to do this. And then while you're not thinking about, like, you might have to think about it at first, obviously, because it's not going to be like breathing to you or like a automated reflex. But that's actually the kind of shit you should be doing. Make things that are just, make things that should be automated and things that you don't have to think about, make them automated by doing them all the time, no matter what. And it doesn't, again, it does not have to be the entire game. I'm not saying you need to be going SD, SD, SD for 20 fucking minutes straight. It's just up to like the point when you have 3 bases. And then you're good. And then you can do whatever the hell you want. And then the game develops into like the next stage. It's no longer the build-up stage. Now it's like the strategy stage and the positioning stage and scouting stage. You know, expand more expansions, the map control stage, basically. Like your initial build is set in stone. Your foundation has been planted, is my point. And just going like this, like SD, 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 will definitely increase the power of your foundation of your build. It'll make a humongous difference. So yeah, I've noticed that sometimes that happens to, like, it happens to everybody, but you know, that's, I don't think I've told you that specifically, at least not recently, but it's important. Just make that automated for yourself if you can. But it's things like that, again, where it's, you know, it's the efficiency thing, and you're falling behind on it. That's another little thing that's ruining your efficiency. Your build order, and now your lack of larva spinning. It's happened in multiple games we've gone over. Where like, every time I'm like, look at the larva, look at the larva, look at the larva. Okay, now you're finally getting a scout into his base with Overlord speed. again, I think there should be a little bit more of an emphasis on scouting, like I talked about before, with your first Overlord, and especially because of the reasons we talked about. But we'll break this down now, okay? We'll look at this. We see, we're going, oh my god, excuse me. We're going into his base, and we see a starport that is almost done. We see a barracks that is building a tech lab. So we can assume they're going to swap. That you just would assume that. You should assume that. It's not guaranteed, but you should, it's like chances are like 90% chance he's going to swap that shit over. And now here's another thing. We should look at his gas, because this will tell us a lot. Not only do you, the fact that you see the command center, but we should look at the gas too, right? Okay, we go, okay, there's 1800 on this one, and there's almost 2100 on this one. Just throwing it out there, a gas starts with 2250, okay? Which means this guy opened up, you can do the math if you want to and go, okay, he mined almost 600 here, and he mined almost 400 on this one. So this guy's gone through about 1,000 gas. The overall. Or, Jesus, I said that wrong. It's been 400 and 200, so he's gone through about 600, not 1,000. Sorry. See, I don't do the math. I couldn't even do the math. I'm an idiot. But you get my point. You could, if you really want to break it down, you can do the math. It really, like, just, you don't have to get perfect either. Just estimate it. Be like, round it off to like whatever's closest. Because if you're sitting here going like, okay, like 88 plus 30, 236, no. Waste of time. Just round it. Be like, okay, it's close to the 50 mark, so we'll just put the extra 100 on it. Whatever. Make it an average. But yeah. The bigger thing you want to look at is how much they have in it. And just going like this. Oh, 1800. Oh, 2K. That tells you he opened up with a 1 gas opener. That's what it tells you automatically. So if you open up with a 1 gas opener, that tells you has a mineral focused build. And this command center is standardly timed, even though he built it here. You also see it here now with your second Overlord, but you get what I mean? Like, this build has been barracks, command center, factory. That's what it tells you. Because he didn't open up both gases at the same time. Now, if we saw 1800 gas and 1800 gas, and this base looked like this base right now, I would be like, this guy has a fuckload of gas. And something is wrong here. And it would not look exactly like this. It would probably look like there would be like a command center turning into an orbital right now, rather than having one already done. And if his base had what it has now, I'd be like, check all of it. There's probably like a second starport being built, or something like that. Something weird and fishy is going on, because he's got a fucking lot of gas. Because a lot of gas, really early, takes away some of your minerals, which means you can tech faster, but you don't have as much. Like, he wouldn't have as many SCVs. He wouldn't have as high of supply as he does. But he would have more starports, which could produce high-tech things quicker, because he'd have multiple buildings for it. But then you got to think about it like this, too. If he went for, like, multiple starports, his third would be really late, because you can't afford to make a third at a standard time anymore. So the more someone techs faster, the slower their macro follow-up is, but the more power their initial attack will have. Their harass can be more of like an all-in centric type thing. Like, instead of having like, oh, we're getting harassed by 2 Banshees, now it's like, oh, we're getting harassed by 5 or 6. Oh shit, this is actually kind of scary.
Queen birth successful.
And yeah, you saw him lift off the barracks too. So automatically, you saw 2 Hellions come out of his base. You saw a starport, which looks like it's going to go on that. You even see Hellions in your base now. Here's the thing too, right? Let me say this.
Evolution. Swarm.
Okay, so if you're gonna go for speedling openers, okay, this is important. This is very important. If you go for speedling openers, this is one of the reasons why I tell you It's kind of nice to get that initial scout off. If it is a Hellion opener and you're going for a Speedling opener, right now, when your speed is almost done, is a great time to make your extra lings. And you don't have to make 16 lings right now at this point in time, but I would say making an extra like 6 would be great, or like 8. You want to have like 10 or 12 Zerglings, because if a Terran player goes for really fast Hellions, like he just makes a reactor factory and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna dive your mineral line with 2 Hellions. It's possible, right? It's totally possible the Terran can do that. But if you made like 8 lings right now, you would have had 11, because you lost one to the Reaper. You would have had 11 lings when he shows up. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. He doesn't have any Hellions out right now. These are his first 2. So if you started like 8 lings right now, your lings would be finishing as his Hellions like leave his base. And your speed would be finishing right before your lings finish out of the eggs, right? And suddenly, Hellions don't do anything, and you can protect your mineral line properly.
Under attack.
Which is what you need to be doing if your opponent opens up with Hellions. Secondly, you also see that he doesn't have... You have a nice scout here. I think this scout is great, and I would love to see another one over here. I think if you do not get Overlord speed, putting your Overlords like this is a little bit sketchy, because if your opponent decides to just push out with like a Marine and has Hellions covering the Marine, he could actually bait you into taking fights that are shitty off creep, with Hellions fighting Zerglings off creep, and then he could also kill your Overlords possibly if he micros well and he kills your Lings and then has the Overlord once again exposed. That can get kind of sloppy if you don't have Overlord speed, but if you do, like you do, it's great to have your Overlords scattered like this out in front of your base. But now you should know that he is going Hellions because of, you know, what you've seen. This is definitely not 2-1-1. This is not double barracks early. You know, we also saw a starport going with a tech lab. You should know that it's Hellions. If you made the Lings, like I said, you would have a little bit of Lings out in time to deal with a dive, like a fucking YOLO Terran who just dives in. And then also, because you don't see him here, I would say it would be a great idea to have your Lings like over here. Like maybe like here, like there maybe, right here, somewhere over here. And here's why. I think it would be nice if you had your Zerglings in the middle of your base if this guy did not put a tech lab on his starport. And again, you don't fully know that yet. And the reason why is because if this guy left a tech, let's say he left a tech lab on his barracks and he actually started upgrading it and he was making concussive shells and making marauders and he made a medevac out of this starport and he literally lifted up 4 Hellions and went, let's fly into the main base, drop them here and go for the mineral line. That could totally happen. Or, if he swaps it to a tech lab, it's not going to happen anymore, and instead, he's going to attack your base from some frontal way, and if you don't see him coming here, most likely he's only going to come from here then, because this is the only other entrance to your base, because you can't drive Hellions over the side of the map. He has to fly. So the medevac is out of the equation now, and now it's just ground units, right? So you should assume there will be Hellions attacking this mineral line, because you should know he went 1-1-1 and he's making Hellions. And also he shows you that he drives past your Overlord and he leaves, or he showed you a second ago that he drove out of your base. So you didn't lose a lot there, but it's something that you could have completely avoided. And it's something that, like, little things like that can completely change the game too. Because imagine this, okay? Instead of losing 2 drones and making 8 Lings anyways, you make these 8 Lings a little earlier, like we talked about, because you know he's going Hellions. You don't lose any drones, and he loses 2 Hellions and a Reaper. Nothing in your build really changes. You are still efficiently spending your larva as you have them. Making 4 drones or 8 Lings with 10 seconds in between the 2 things is not going to change your build at all. Be like, I can't spend my larva now. Fuck. It's not going to do anything about that. You're still going to easily have enough money to spend your larva properly. You should at that point. But what could happen is you could kill some of his army and not lose any of your economy. You're making the same units either way. So this is, again, inefficient. You took damage and you just lost shit for no reason. Because you just didn't respect his opener. You didn't scout it early enough. And that's something that happened to you because you relied only on Overlord speed. You went, fuck it, I'm not going to scout anything until we see Overlord speed. And you missed the ability to go, oh, he's opening with Hellions. So you should have had Lings started before your speed was done. And it should have been like 8 of them like you're making now. Your spore timing this game is fine. You don't see a fusion core. You do see him also upgrading a thing on the tech lab. I think you might have even saw that. You might have been in range to see that. Like he was maybe not gonna do that for real. It might have been a fake.
Swarm forces.
I think he starts it in your vision. Okay, you see a fusion core too. But look, let's see if your Lord sees it. Yeah, see that? Like if you were paying attention, you see that you don't actually see anything upgrading off this tech lab when you first get there. And then you see the little prong here poke out as you're already in range, which means he just started it. Watch. You can see right now there's nothing happening in that tech lab. And now watch the difference right here. And now he starts it. Now it pokes out, and now it's lighting up green. He did that in your vision. So if you were watching that, if I was me and I was looking at that and going, oh, okay, well, you're starting a fucking cloak. I agreed with your spores a second ago until he showed you he's making a fusion core and he's making cloak. Guaranteed when this Overlord dies, he's going to cancel it. Okay, he's trying to, there's a thing, right? I'm actually wrong. There's a chance that he cancels the fusion core too. He's doing 2 builds at once on you. You don't get a fucking fusion core upgrade you don't get a fusion core and also a tech lab upgrade on the starport. That's 2 different builds to open the build with. So he actually is going to commit to the cloak, and he's going to cancel the fusion core. So, if that were me and I saw that, I honestly would have probably been like, I'm just gonna not make the spores. I would have said, fuck the spore crawlers. That's honestly what I would have done, because I would have assumed he's gonna go BCs, and then I would have just gone about my day assuming it's gonna be Banshee Hellion instead of BC Hellion. But here's the thing, I would have assumed it was gonna be BC Hellion instead of Banshee Hellion. I would have thought it was gonna be BCs. So about 40 seconds from now, I would have made spores, just like we talked about before, right? Or not even. It's much later than that, because the fusion core wasn't even done yet. I would have made spores probably like a minute and a half from now. Which means that the Banshees would have definitely attacked me before I was ready for a spore crawler. But look at this, okay? Look at this. Here's a reason why everything I just said, where I would have read this build in a certain way of what he showed me, why it wouldn't matter if I do it wrong. Okay, and here's why. Look at the fucking research time of cloak. It's 79 seconds. That's a long upgrade. Look at the build time of a layer. 57 seconds. You will have a layer before he'll have cloak because he delayed his cloak so long. So again, this is one of those things where even if you do the wrong thing, it doesn't fucking matter if your build's efficient and his build is inefficient. You know what I mean? Like his build is just, this is fucking a terrible cloak opener because his cloak is like a full minute late over what it should have been if he's gonna rush cloak. So it doesn't even matter that I would have canceled spores. I would have had an overseer. I could make an overseer. Because it's not like he shows up when I'm like, oh fuck, my layer's not done yet, I don't have spores. I could just be like, oh look, a Banshee is flying over my creep spread right now. That means he committed to the Banshee. Instead of making a BC, let's make an Overseer, because I would have one in time for him to have done that. Guaranteed. And he's not even doing that. He's fucking getting Cloak and getting a Raven. So, again, that's out of the question. Even if I cancel my Spores, I'm fucking fine for now, right? I would still be under the assumption that I'm fighting against VCs. But that would be me, because I don't get Overlord speed. So, again, my build would be also further ahead than yours, because I don't overly invest into gas as quick for Overlord speed. Instead, I just go for I get more drones out, and then I go back and mine a gas and go straight lair. So our lair timings are about the same, but I just have more drones. That's the only difference. And my scouting is more limited. But with you, who has Overlord speed, you could totally fly back into his base again and reconfirm what he's doing. And you could actually see the Raven, right, in his base. And also that he's upgrading still in the tech lab, which makes no sense. Like, you would, if I were you and I was playing, and I was like, okay, he got a Raven, and he's getting a tech lab upgrade. The fuck? Like, and then you could also tell he did not get the Raven upgrade if you were to fly into his base and be like, okay, his Raven has like 55 energy. Either he fucked up the timing of that, or he's getting a different upgrade entirely, which means he's gonna commit a lot to air here. And this is a really weird build. Like, this is a very non-standard Terran player. This is super awkward. There's a lot of things you can pick up on though, if you scout it repeatedly with Overlord speed. Again, same thing though. Where's your army? Okay, it's right here. This is a respectable position. But here's the thing too, right? Remember when I said you're gonna want to get like 8 lings? Do you remember when I said you want to get like 8 lings, and then like right before your Zergling speed's done, if he goes for a Hellion opener, that would keep you safe from the initial Hellions. You're at that stage now where that was a while ago, and no Hellions have died yet. So you need to really respect the fact that he could have more Hellions than you can deal with, and having only like 10 lings now doesn't really cut it. I like that you're making at least 4 more, but I would love it now, because no Hellions have died, if you just either made a couple roaches, or if you like maybe double up on your ling count and go to like 16 now, before these Hellions attack you, because I guarantee what's going to happen is you're going to lose drones. You're either going to lose all these lings and some drones, or you're just going to lose some drones and the Hellions will die, and you're going to make more lings again. Okay, he's non-committal. He's playing it safe. But are you going to make more lings? Let's see it. You should. But you should not make a ton for it. Okay, good. Perfect. Good shit. You actually handled that situation correctly. As long as you don't make any more now. You just barely didn't have enough units to deal. Okay, you're making more. This is starting to become excessive now. It's not that bad as long as, okay, you're going back in the drones. Not that bad. It's fine. There are stages. If you kill his army, the stages get delayed for the Terran because now he has to build up a new army again. If you don't kill any army at all, you have to pace yourself accordingly to what he can do to you. And 6 Hellions is if you have 16 lings, okay, 16 lings with the support of queens can easily kill 6 Hellions, no problem, and a Reaper. But now let's say he has 8 Hellions. 16 lings and 3 queens could also beat 8 Hellions, I would say, but that's getting kind of dicey. Now let's say he has 10 Hellions. Maybe you want to ramp that shit up a little bit. Maybe you want to go, instead of 16 lings, now you go to like 22. 24 maybe. Now you're good against 10 Hellions, and you're good against 12 Hellions, and now maybe even 14. But now let's say he's got 16 Hellions, and you still only have 24 lings. You might want to ramp it up again. This takes time for Terran to build Hellions like this if they're doing it off of 1 reactor, which is what Terrans open with. They don't open with like 4 reactor factories. So they're not going like 8 Hellions at a time. They're making 2 by 2 by 2, and they're making these bad boys every like 23 seconds, 21 seconds. So like you're basically every minute that goes by, if no fight has happened and he's constantly making Hellions, you probably want to ramp your shit up to the next stage. Be like, all right, he's at 6 Hellions. We have 16 lings. We're good. And now a minute goes by and he still hasn't fought you yet, and you're like, okay, now he could have like 14 Hellions. It's kind of scary if I have 16 lings. Ramp that shit up before the fight happens. And you don't only have to use lings. You can totally use roaches. I prefer roaches personally. Especially if I know it's Mech. And if you scout his base right now again with an Overlord, you would know it's Mech. And the other thing too, you saw that he's got a third command center. So I love the fact that you're droning your ass off. I commend you on that. That's good shit. That is a good job, because look at your drone count. You know how every time I get pissed off? Well, I don't get pissed off, but I'm always like, Sapien, look at your drone count. It's not good. You're at 45 and Terran's at 47. This is not good. You're behind on supply. You've done a good job this game so far. Again, not perfect. There are lots of little things we've already talked about that you can improve on. But overall, still good job. You're actually leading the Terran with a respectable worker count, which means you're also leading the supply up to this point, and you're also crushing his economy at the moment. Like, you're doing well enough so far. And the reason, and I feel like you've done that successfully too, because you scouted a third base. You saw a third command center, so it was actually like logical. It wasn't like, fuck it, I'm making drones. I don't know. You actually saw a third CC, so it makes sense. But you still respected the staging of his Hellions, like the levels of power that he could go up to. So far, your build's been fine. And I like that you're taking a fourth right now. I do not like what's happening now, though. I do not like this. And I do not like this. You're going back into Lingbane Hydra again. It looks like. Which is awful against Mech. And you're making this decision after you scouted he's going Mech. This composition sucks against Mech. It's not great. That's fine, whatever. And now you're going into melee. At least, if you're going to go Ling Hydra Bane, I at least approve of your upgrade choices. You're not getting Carapace, which you definitely should not be getting against Mech. You're fully committing to Ling Bane Hydra. You're getting speed upgrades for all of it. You're making Banes. Drone count right now for you is 72 to 57. Your drone count is not bad, but I would love to see even more. And you still are making more, which I like. I want you to literally go to like 80 to 90 drones, somewhere around 80 to 90. If you get 80, I'll give you a thumbs up. If you get 90, I'll give you a double thumbs up, because I would love to see you around 90. There's no way you die right now. If you if you were like, you know what, I'm making nothing but drones until 90, what would kill you? The amount of time it would take you to get to 90 drones from now would be about 20 seconds or 30 seconds. We'll say 30 seconds, because by the time this inject pops off and this inject pops off, you'll guaranteed have it. 17 more drones. Guaranteed. Off of, because you can also have this hatchery starting to produce larvae too. And you'd have this inject, you'd have all the automated larvae. 30 seconds. And you'd be right around having another 17 drones, right? And you also already have 5 more in production. So really, you only need 12. So guaranteed, 30 seconds, you're fucking good to go. Like, you're going to have 90 drones if you made drones up until that point. And then if you went, you know what? Okay, I'm on 90 drones. I'm going to take a 5th base. I'm going to take like 2 macro hatches. It could be, you could put a macro hatch here, and you could even put another base here. That could be a macro hatch for now. Something like that. You would have enough larvae available to spin that, especially also if you took one of your queens that are creep spreading and just made it inject one of your bases, so you had 4 queens injecting. You could 100% keep this Terran on 3 bases all game. If you wanted to go Lingbane Hydra, which is the only way I would ever say that makes sense. You're gonna, the idea, the goal is you keep forcing fights to happen by overwhelming the Terran with superior economy. And you always have these supply leads where even though he's defensive, you're just overwhelming him, and you're both losing a lot, but you can replace what you lose faster than he can. And then you break him down over time, because eventually he starts running out of money. Especially since he's a Terran player and he's got mules. Look, he's muled the fuck out of his main base. He's already about to mine out of a couple patches in the main. He's got a 20 patch. He's got a 70 patch. A 100 patch. You've got a 300 patch. A 150. A 100 and a 200. Like, he's already muled his main a bit. Which is why this... Some of these patches are kind of low. Like, they're literally going to disappear soon. He's already lost the patch in his main. If you could kill his third, you would literally win the game just like that. But if you just never let him take a fourth base, you would also win the game like that, going Ling Hydra Bane. Production-wise, you're making 9 more drones. You're at 85. And you're making 3 more. Mostly up, second thumb. You're almost there. I'll give you double thumbs up. It's fucking good. You're 2 drones off. I don't give a shit. That is ballpark of... It's beautiful. That's some good shit. Okay? Well done on the drones. Again, not perfect from the early game, but your decision at this point, I approve of more than you know. It's wonderful seeing you do that. I'm very happy about that. Because that makes me think this game... Well, I mean, we're going to see how it goes for the rest of the game, right? But if you make an economy like that, that makes it seem like you understand the logic behind going Ling Hydra Bane, which is constant aggression and remaxing. Constant aggression, remaxing. And just smashing the Terran over and over. You just keep his army breaking over and over. You never let it max out. That's the only way this works. But the only thing that makes me kind of worried is you have a great economy, but now your bank is going to go fucking insane if you don't do hatchery, macro hatchery. Like, you don't have the, you do not have the larva for this. So I would love to see you make hatcheries right now. I hope you do. You're making another hatchery. I like it. Also, make sure too, when you make your buildings like this, make sure you're also replacing the drones. Don't go up to 88 and then suddenly be like, expand, hatchery, expand, gas, macro hatch. And I look at your drone kind of get it and it's like 78. You know what I mean? Like, make sure you're also replacing the drones when you do this. And you want to like maintain around 90. Like, again, somewhere between 80 and 90 is great. Closer to 90 is better because it makes more sense with the style. Because the way going Ling Hydra Bane makes style... The way going Ling Hydra Bane against Terran makes sense if the Terran is also macroing, which he is, because he's got 3 bases and you confirmed that a long time ago. The only way it makes sense is if you overpower their economy and throw army at them all day, which means not stopping at shitty drone counts for that situation. Like 90 is ideal here because you know he's macroing. 80 is more acceptable if he's like a little bit more aggressive. Like, he's got a 4th command center, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's definitely ideal for you to be around 90 the whole time. You're going Ling Hydra Bane. This is okay if you're aggressive. We'll see how you do it. Well, we'll see how your positioning goes and stuff like that. Let's look at your larva really fast. The ejects are popping off. You're spending. You're making more lings. You are making another hatchery here now. I like the macro hatch. I don't like... It's not that big of a deal. But I like it... this is a personal preference. I like it when the hatcheries are closer together. Again, it's not a big deal, but I like it because this way you can quickly inject your base. Like, if you have a camera hotkey, let's say like right here, okay? You can quickly inject your base by going like queen, inject, like double tap. Really fast. You go to your next base, do it again, or your other base, whatever. Instead of having to be like queen, inject this base, and then go to the side of your screen or scroll across and inject some other hatchery. It makes it less efficient. But it's not that big of a deal, like I said. I think you're doing it because you want to put creep over here. But that's its own... If that's really why you did it, it's its own problem. This creep tumor should have just been spread as well. That would also make it... That would be smarter or better than just building a hatchery on the side. But you're building a hatchery. What I'm telling you right now is like the smaller deal. The big deal is you're building a macro hatch. I do think it's a bit late. I think when you took this hatchery should have also been the time when you took macro hatchery. And maybe even should have taken another hatchery somewhere else or taken a second macro hatchery. Like, you need a lot of hatcheries with the amount of drones you have. And again, look at your drone count too. It's, again, like I said, it's starting to drop a little bit. You're starting to get kind of close to where Terran is. I would love it if you rebuild the drones. It's back to like 90.
Under attack.
I don't know if you will. Especially if you start doing things like ripping drones off minerals and putting them on gas now. On top of that. Like, it's gonna... You're gonna not have the... You're not gonna be overwhelming the Terran's mineral income, which is kind of what needs to happen. For you to be able to take sometimes trades that are inefficient but still worth it.
Mineral field exhausted.
Okay, so you're still making Link Hydrobane. Alright, now so base talk aside, again, I think your mineral count is gonna always be kind of high because I don't think you made the hatcheries as well as you could have. So we're just gonna see a really high Zerg bank for a lot of this game, which is gonna delay your timings a little bit. But talking about your timing, we talk about this all the time, and I think one mistake you do a lot too is you always attack without knowing what you're attacking.
Oh, yeah.
I would love it if you scouted with like a Zergling first. Just scout where the hell he is. Because if you attack, let's say, the third base, and let's just say his army's defending it and it's really well defended, and he's got a really exposed fourth base. Massive missed opportunity. You did the same thing last game, but you actually picked the right bases to attack by flipping a coin and going, I don't know, we're going to attack here. And it just happened to be the right base. You got lucky last time, but that's not always going to happen, right? So definitely scout with as like a Zergling just to see where the hell you're going, like what makes more sense to attack. And you really should do that too, since you're looking for attacks. That's how the only way this style makes sense. Playing like this. Yo, Har, thank you very much for the sub, dude. For the gifted sub. Much appreciated, mate. Thank you, dude.
Creep tumor under attack.
Alright. So now you're going to kill his army. I think this is excessive, and this is why. Every second counts. Every second counts. This style is all about maximizing time for yourself. It might not seem like it, but you're actually giving the Terran what he wants by coming back here with your entire army and attacking his Hellions, which are now becoming Hellbats. Because the first thing that's going to happen is you're probably going to lose a somewhat of an equal trade, I would imagine. Does he have smart servos? Hold on, let's see if he does. He does not. Okay, so you're probably going to take a better trade here than he will. But you might still lose some lings to some Hellion action, some Hellbat action. But the bigger picture here, the bigger thing, is you're giving him time to prepare a defense now. Like, what if this army, instead of hitting his army, these little 6 Hellbats, what if instead you just killed this base? And then your new units that just spawned out of your hatchery defended the... Like, you could do it literally as simple as this, okay? Let's just say you want to do it lazy as fuck. Okay? Lazy as fuck. This is the lazy defense. You got 20 Lings and 4 Hydras in production. Let's say you scouted with a Zergling and you saw where his bases were. You saw a wall here and you saw a fucking command center here that's just idle. It's nothing. Right now, you run down to the middle of the map. You run here. Your army surrounds this command center. He lifts it off. Your Hydras pick it off in the air. It doesn't take very long to die. Your army can crush just this random CC really fast. You then, as you're killing it, you see his army over here with however you saw it. I can't remember how you saw it. You see it on creep or something, right?
Evolution complete.
You do. So you see this army on creep. Let's say this command center dies. Let's just say right now, it just got surrounded. Your Lings are surrounding it. Your Hydras are concaving against it. You're killing it. He's completely out of position to defend it. So this command center 100% is going to die. And then you say, select all army, attack my base. Attack back to, like, attack move back here. And then you just, like, maybe green box, like, a little bit of Banelings and Zerglings and say, Ling Bane, stop. Stay right here. That way your Hydras, like all your fucking excess like Lings and Banes go back to your base. Your new units can rally to like right here. And your current Hydras that are killing the command center, keep killing the command center until it's dead, which will only take like 2 seconds or 3 seconds. But then you just green boxed a couple of units and you said, hey, just defend this for a second. Just in case. Just in case he pulls out a new army and attacks my Hydras, which are slower than Zerglings to retreat with. So I don't take a lot of losses. Or even if you don't even do that, even if you just say, hey, my entire army, like, I don't know if you put your eggs in your control group. Let's see if you do. Do you? You do. So all your eggs are in your control group, okay? This is an even easier way to do it. Because you do that, here's what you can do. If you scouted and we're on the command center and attacking it because it's exposed, you could go 1 right click here. 1 attack move here. And you know what that would do? That would make all of your current Lingbane Hydra kill this command center. And they would stay together and you'd be safe. And then you could go home after it's dead and you're good to go, right? But because you right-clicked right here, eggs do not respond to attack move commands, but they do respond to move commands. So all of your production of Zerglings and Hydras, which is 34 Lings and 4 Hydras coming out and very soon, would all spawn and go here. And that would be enough to defend this. 100%. This is not that scary. And like that, again, the whole point of this build, if you're going to be really aggressive with Ling Hydra Bane, is not allowing a Terran to fortify a 4th base. They are going to guaranteed fortify a 3rd base because the timing of you having this ability is going to be after the Terran has done this. It's impossible to not kill a 3rd base that's fortified.
Yeah.
The only way you fight a Terran if you're fighting the 3rd is if it's fortified, and then you have to have enough to overpower that. It's impossible to do that before that. So the 3rd is necessary for Terran. But a 4th base is not. You could 100% kill a 4th base that is not fortified. But if you allow the Terran to fortify it, it suddenly gets 3 times as hard to break it. And you lose way more in the process. So you're not respecting what's important here, which is not letting the Terran get a 4th base. You do not want the Terran to have as much money as you do. And it's because you panicked and went, oh shit, the Hellions. Let's send my whole army back. When you didn't need to. Yo, Zerg, thank you very much for the sub, bro. I appreciate the 21 months. You're an absolute gem. And now look, now his army's moving in position to fortify it. He's putting a turret down for detection, or a sensor tower rather. He's making a planetary. And now you're taking a fight with his base. His army is no longer in his natural. His army is now in the front. And let's see how it goes, right? Let's just see how it goes. This is still something you could possibly kill. And you do. So good job. But when you think about it, let's compare this. So you still got the job done, which means you're still ahead. But we'll just compare something really fast. Okay, these are resources lost for you and Terran. You were 900, by the way, and Terran's 1,074 a second ago. Okay, now you are 2175, and Terran is 2223. My point is you could have gotten a free trade and a free advantage if you had just done it the way I said a second ago, where you scouted ahead, you went, oh look, an exposed 4th. The guy gave you the opportunity to do that, but you didn't capitalize on it. Instead, you ran across the map to defend this, which resulted in you now doing an attack that is no longer free to kill because it's just exposed. And now instead, you invested 1,100 resources to kill it. You know what I mean? Or sorry, 1,200, almost 1,300. Like, you have to just make efficient decisions with where you attack. And all you gotta do is just scout ahead with a Zergling, go, look, it's exposed, it's a 4th, he's just trying to take it. Every second you give the Terran, on top of the last, like, you know, each second that goes by that you're giving the Terran to establish a 4th base and defense, like make it fortified, is like you're making the percentage of resources lost go up for yourself. The best case scenario is you catch a command center right when it fucking first gets there, and you just go, "Hey, what's up?" Dead. And what you should be doing right now is being active and crushing the Terran, because the first rule is what I kind of talked about, right? Killing the fourth base, if there is a fourth base. The second thing that you're not doing, that we talked about before as well, is crippling the Terran, which you're not doing at all. That is why I think you're not respecting this build, because look what's happening. Let's look at your production. Do you have a follow-up to this? You have a hive, you have a spire, you have a greater spire that could start, but has not started yet. If you do start a greater spire, we've talked about this before, I would agree with you being conservative with your army, but you're not starting a greater spire. And because of how you're playing this, it looks like you actually want to transition into a death ball again, which I'm not opposed to, okay? I'm not opposed to. You've successfully killed the fourth, which is the whole point of what you've done here. That's a good job. You've now established the point where you're on 5 bases and Terran's on 3, and you're soon to be on 6, and he's soon to be back on 4 if he gets away with it. But you're establishing a base lead. Workers, you've recommitted to the worker count. You've got 88 again. Double thumbs up, bro. Good shit. You've set the game up well for yourself. But the one thing I don't want to see you do now, because of what you're doing, is you are not nearly aggressive enough in the early stages because you have a massive fucking bank. And you also are letting the Terran get close to your supply and maxing out. You've missed the boat, basically. You've missed your window to cripple the Terran consistently over and over and over. So that should no longer be your game plan. What I'm trying to say here is if you make this army take a fight and you lose all of it, that is a massive mistake, because your goal, you are now letting the game go to death ball stages, and you should be transitioning to something better like Broodlord Infestor or something like that. So if you fight the Terran, it should be little bits and pieces of your army getting traded off to remax on something better. If your plan is to take big fights against Terran, I don't know what you waited so long for. We'll see what you do. We'll see what happens. A couple of liberators, it's annoying. Move that spore, baby. Bring those drones back, baby. Where'd they go? Oh, you just rotate them to a different mineral line. Ah, whatever, I don't give a fuck. That's fine, actually. I actually think this is fine, because you're going to mine a harder to defend base right now when you have map control, and you're going to make this base stay not mined for longer. So if you mine this base out, and it's really hard to take another base outside, and you're running out of money, you could always fall back to your inner base. That's actually fine. I don't give a fuck that you did that. But you're not going to have map control for long, though, because you're letting the Terran max out. That's something that's scary. So the Terran is now reestablishing a fourth base. And you just lost the links, okay? I'm going to look at this production tab. And if you're making anything that is not corruptors or infestors, I'm going to be very sad. You're making spines, you're making drones. I like it. You're maintaining good economy. Keep in mind, too, this is another thing. If you're going to switch the game into a death ball, 90 drones is too much, by the way. That's a different style entirely. I don't mind that you did 90 drones early, but I think you should have definitely been more aggressive with your Hydra Ling Bane if you really wanted to. Otherwise, you could have teched a lot faster with your Hive Tech and Greater Spire. If you don't want to really be that aggressive. But keep in mind, if you do actually, at this stage of the game, if you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go into Broodlords. Make your drone count actually go back down to like 70. 70, 75. And it could be doing things literally like you could slowly trickle it back. I'm not saying go send drones to suicide or make like 20 static defense structures right now. But when things like this happen, where you're like, I'm gonna add in some spines and maybe a spore to a new base, which I don't like the positioning. I really don't like the positioning of your spines, by the way. Because what if Hellions just drive around the back? You're fucked. Like you should put a spine like put a spine literally like right here, put a spine like right here, put a spine like right here, and maybe put a spine like on the other side of the hatchery, or spines in the middle line like here and here and there and there. Spines can be definitely way better placed. But my point is if you're gonna go Broodlords, you can slowly add on static D to new bases and make new bases with gases and stuff, and just don't replace drones then. And your drone count will slowly diminish down to like 75, which would be perfect. You have Corruptors. Vader Spire is almost done. You look like you're waiting for Broodlords to start. Again, if we were to go back and watch how long of a time you had between when you got the Hive and when you got the Spire and when you started Vader Spire and when you started Corruptors and when you started Broodlords, there's probably like 3 minutes of time you're missing on that. The 12 minutes is very fucking late if your plan is literally to just go for Broodlords. And I'm even including the fact that you went Ling Hydrabane first. That's very realistic. Like, you could have got Broodlords by, like, 10 and a half. I agree with your upgrade. Because you're fighting against Hellbat and Cyclone, this upgrade is good. Again, the only time you'd ever want to get... the only time you'd ever want Carapace is if you're fighting a lot of BCs or a lot of BCs. I don't agree with that. If you're fighting a lot of BCs or a lot of Liberators, then Carapace is way better. But if you're not fighting either one of those things, like we're talking mass BCs or mass Liberators. If you're not fighting either one of those, always get weapons against Mech. You killed this army, but to be fair, your Terran opponent didn't kite anything. I'm kind of noticing a trend when you fight Terran, which is why I think you think Ling Hydrabane is good against this. And if a Terran player goes Hellion Cyclone and goes, you know what? I don't want to kite. Fuck kiting. Who needs that? Then Ling Hydrabane will crush it. But if this Terran player kites ever, if he ever kites, then yeah. Like, he allowed himself to get surrounded. And now he's just concaving you. He's like, yeah, fuck it, let's go! Concave! Good Terrans won't ever do that. You're gonna run into a brick wall with Ling Hydrabane against Mech if you continue to do that. At some point, if you allow the Terran to max and shit, like this comp will run into a brick wall. Seriously. Anyways, I agree with your Broodlords. I even agree with your Ultra Cavern, because I feel like it's kind of nice to if you see an opportunity to switch it. If you're like, wow, he has like 25 Vikings, how are you gonna stop 10 Ultras? He doesn't stop it. That's the thing. He just dies. So I agree with the Ultra Cavern, even though you don't have to use it. It's not the big of an investment, and it has the potential for you to have a game-winning move if it applies. But if he's got like a lot of tanks or a lot of Liberators or a lot of Thors, do not ever make Ultras. It's literally only allowed to make Ultras if the Terran player, if they're going Mech, if they have shitloads of Vikings. That's it. If you see a cloud of Vikings, like we're talking seriously like 20, 25 Vikings, and you make Ultras, you're going to have a good day. But if it's anything that's not, if it's anything else, unless it's a situation where you have like 100 supply over them, like you're going to probably lose. So just keep that in mind with Ultras. That's the only time they ever apply. When you're either massively outnumbering their supply or they just have an awful army, which is Mass Viking. Because they're so worried about Broodlord. Like, this would be the worst time to make Ultras. But again, I don't mind that you're making the building, so that's fine. You're making Hydras and Lings again. You're making a composition that is actually not bad against Bio, but is awful against Mech. If this dude had Marines and tanks and Widow Mines. I'd be like, yeah, dude, fuck yeah. Your comp is you're gonna crush. It's gonna do great. And medevacs and shit. I'd be like, you're looking pretty good. I'm pretty confident that you're gonna win. Well, you're fighting against tanks and liberators and Vikings and Thors and Hellions, which means your broodlords have no way to be covered. This is what's gonna really happen. Your broodlords are all gonna die against the Vikings, and as your Hydras move forward and try to cover the broodlords from the Vikings, the tanks are gonna shoot the shit out of you. And then when you get a little bit deeper, if you start breaking the front line before your broodlords are totally dead, because your broodlords are killing shit while they're still also dying, you're gonna then get to the point where you're fighting against liberators and a planetary, and you're really gonna die. Your army is going to cost efficiently, or very not cost efficiently, fight here, because Hydras are awful against Mech. So we'll write it down again, right? It's a 63, 25 for Zerg versus 64, 73 for Terran. And let's just watch it. Let's watch it happen. Let's look at production too really quickly while this is happening. We'll go back to resources lost in a minute. Okay, so the fight's over. You're producing units after the fight's over. I'm just kind of glad you're not making more Hydras again. I hope you don't make any more. I just wanted to see what you were going to produce, you know, during or after your shit died. You're going Corruptor, which I agree with, and I hope to God it's Corruptor Broodlord from this point on. But now let's look at resources lost. The Terran was at 6473 and is now at 87, so he lost pretty much 2,300. You were at 6.3 and now you're at 12.6, so you just lost like 6,300. You lost like almost triple the amount Terran did in that fight, which is massively inefficient. And the reason why you're doing that fight is because you're allowing yourself to get in these situations where you just keep making so many Hydras, and you have this like army that's like 80% Ling Hydra Bane, and then the rest is Death Ball. Ling Hydra Bane is not a Death Ball, but you're allowing the Terran to get to a Death Ball situation. So it's getting really, really awful for you for trades. You're making Infestors now, you're making Corruptors. You're making Vipers. Too complicated. This army is too complicated already. If you're going to make a Spellcaster, I already think you're in Master League now, so I think you can handle a Spellcaster. I do not think you should be going Infestors and Vipers together. It's too complicated. You're going to fuck it up so bad. I guarantee it. I bet you'll... This is nothing against you, Sapien. Don't take offense to this. I do think you have the ability to get better, and this will not apply to you if that happens in the future. But I think a player at your level would even fuck up just one Spellcaster on average. So having two is going to make it way fucked up. Okay? That's legit how it is. So yeah, I'm very against you going double caster here. This is like pro level shit here. Okay, let's look at your overall composition, right? You have so many goddamn Hydras. You have 5 Broodlords, 6 Banelings, 7 Queens. 7 Queens is like almost okay. It's not that bad. Okay, if you had 7 Queens and you didn't have 20 Hydras, I wouldn't give a fuck. 7 Queens is fine. I would say though, ideally, if you have a good creep spread like this, like it's not that great, but it's like it's like enough to have a good. You have enough to like start halfway across the map in any direction, basically. I would say you could probably get rid of 1 or 2 queens. Very minor. Okay, I was about to harp on you about the queens, but I'm like, no, they really can't. Okay, it's what 7 is actually fine. But I would say, to be nitpicky, 5 or 6 would be better. It's just you really want to maximize your supply if you fucking go into a death ball situation. You don't want to have all this extra supply that means nothing. 79 drones, thumbs up. That's a good amount. Around 75 is perfect. I'm really happy you're not around 90 anymore because you're going for a death ball. It makes sense. So 79 is wonderful. The biggest problem I see here is your fucking Hydras and the Vipers. This is 12 supply in Vipers, and this is 40 supply in Hydras. This is 52 fucking supply of your army that I guarantee is going to do absolutely nothing, but it's going to look like that again. It's just going to be like, wow, Zerg loses way more. Holy shit. I would say the Vipers are okay if you didn't go for the Infestors, because you're just using 1 caster then, but I do think the Infestors are better than the Vipers overall. He is going Mass Vikings, so Vipers do have a chance here to be good. Like, you can totally get a bomb in there and be like, oh, your shit's dead. But you could do the same thing with Fungal. Like, you can just literally Fungal it 4 times and they also die. Or 5 times, rather. Anyways. Your composition, though, is going to fuck you over really bad. Your composition is... It's too much Ling Hydra Bane still. That's the big one. That's the biggest problem. It's bigger than Viper. The Hydras are the biggest problem you have right now. So much supply is so shitty. To give you a comparison of how bad your composition is, imagine if the Terran player, who currently has... Let's let it play for just a second. Imagine if the Terran player, who has 6 Liberators and 12 Vikings, okay? Imagine if we deleted all of these units, okay? And instead, this is 18 supply, and this is 24 supply. It would be like having, that's 42, right? It's 24 supply 8 plus 18. That's 42. Imagine having 42 supply and Hellions extra. So that's an extra 21 Hellions. So instead of 4 Hellions, he has 25 Hellions. That would be the equivalent to what you have. Like 25 Hellions and 11 tanks would suck ass. And 3 Thors. It would just... If this was all Hellions instead of Liberator Viking, it would suck so bad. And that is kind of what you're doing to yourself, because you have such a small good army and such a large shitty army. Hydras are mid-game units if you're going to go for a death ball. Hydras can be late-game units if you never let the game get to late game. Late game does not just mean, oh, it's 15 minutes, we're in late game. This could still be mid-game if you were just aggressive. Terran's still on 3 bases, and this is what his third looks like. This is what his natural looks like, and this is what his main looks like, and he's like out of money. It's not late game then. It's just it's mid-game gone on for 15 minutes. I'm fucking look at this. Don't look at anything here except for the Hydralisk, okay? We'll play this fight a couple times, but I want you guys to just stare at the Hydras. Just look at them. Okay? What do these Hydras actually do? Now we're going for round 2. I'm not gonna lie, out of like 20 Hydras, I think I saw, out of all of them combined, I think I probably saw like 9 auto attacks go off out of 20 Hydras. And it was with like the last 3 Hydras that were like poke, 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 dead. Stop making Hydras for in-game armies. Now, moving on. They didn't even kill a single unit. They 100% against a mech army. The only unit that those Hydras could have killed out of all of what Terran has right now is an SCV. One SCV could have died. Maybe 2 SCVs could have died. Nothing else would die. But now we're not going to focus so hard on the Hydras this time. Let's focus on your actual usage of the rest of your army, which is also very small, which makes it way harder. Those infested Terrans are worthless. The amount of DPS this dude has is going to just delete that shit in 2 seconds. And all you've done is blow like 200 energy out of your infestors for that, which is reducing. You now have basically depleted 2 of your infestors are now just depleted. They can't help. So you had 8 infestors, now you really only have 6 for actual useful spells. Okay, we have the army moving in. You have what looks like... This is what it looks like. You have your Broodlords in their own group. You have your Vipers mixed with your Hydras, your Lings, and your Banes. And then you have your Infestors in their own group. This is becoming really complicated. And what's going to happen right now is you're going to A-move your Hydras, and you're going to Parasitic Bomb random shit as you're out here. And this is not a great way to take a fight, because what's happening right now is you're 100% guaranteeing the fact that you're going to lose shit as you try to kill shit. The only kind of Terran player that would lose to this is a Terran player that is very bad at micro, because you're giving him all the advantages. You're engaging into his concave. You're engaging into his setup. You're not giving yourself any advantages here. My point is, okay, this is my point. If the Terran player grouped up his army really hard and you engaged like this, you're 100% still going to lose a lot of shit in the process. But let's just say he flew all of his Liberators and all of his Vikings into each other, into a little ball, and it all fucking exploded. And you're like, oh god, it's all dead. Well, it's a trade then. It's not even good for you in terms of like, oh, I owned him. You lost so much in the process to do that. You're like trading supply with him at that point. But you're giving him the ability to where if he's not bad and he doesn't just ball everything up and lose it all, he has the option then to go, oh look, Parasitic Bomb, split it off. Parasitic Bomb, split it off. Another Parasitic Bomb, split it off. Oh look, the Zerg just fucking lost like 50 supply. I'll just repair my shit now. And now I have this big lead because he just threw so much of his army away. And I could even be like, instead of repairing my shit, if I go, wow, he lost way too much, now let's just chase him and kill him. You know what I mean? So you're taking this fight all wrong, and it's because your composition's so bad, which is why it feels like that. You're taking a fight that is so Hydra heavy at this stage. I'm gonna give you, and then all your infestors are just running in afterwards, just dying to tanks. No idea what I'm doing. Okay. Sapien, imagine this, okay? Imagine. I'm just gonna give you one spellcaster, okay? I'll give you the example of both the infestors and also the Vipers. So let's just say we delete Viper and Hydra and Baneling out of your army, okay? All of it gets deleted. You just literally hit the fucking delete key. It's all gone. Now your Broodlord count goes up to like 14. And you have also enough supply to make like 16 Corruptors with 12 Infestors. So now you have like 14 Broodlords, 16 Corruptors, and 12 Infestors. And you're maxed out just like you are pretty much right now, okay? That's your new army. What would happen if you had your Broodlords all right here? They're all stacked up right here. You stack them all up in this box and you just attack the tanks and you back up, and then the Vikings chase you and you have your infestors right here, and if he chases you too far, you just fungal him. You don't even try to move forward to fungal. You let him come to you and fungal him. You force him to do what you just did, which is engage into your army. You just wait for it. You're like, come at me, bro. And if he doesn't come at you, you just ball your broodlords up and move another tank, and then back up your broodlords again. Your broodlords all shoot once. A bunch of tanks start shooting each other with fucking friendly fire splash. You back up. He moves the Vikings again. If he commits to into a fungal, you fungal him. If he doesn't, you fucking chill. But now, because you are methodically taking this fight in a patient way, even if you don't get a good fungal on the Vikings, do you know what you actually are doing and you're accomplishing? You're reducing the damage your infestors are going to take because you're thinning out the tank line. Tank dies. Tank dies. Tank dies. Tank dies. Tank dies. He doesn't get fungaled ever because he's really conservative with his Vikings. But now suddenly a lot of the tanks are dead. So now your infestors can magically walk down the ramp. And you can now force fungals to happen without trying to walk into 12 tanks or 10 tanks. You know what I mean? Because you've baited him into possible fungals that he didn't take the bait for. But this tank line here is just fucking asking to be abused by fungal growth. Or sorry, by broodlords, and then the Vikings would be abused by fungal. Meanwhile, your corruptors are right here as well, and if you ever land a fungal, hey corruptors, go kill that shit. And I'll chain the fungal one more time or something like that. Now, let's just say, instead of 12 infestors, you have 6 vipers. Delete the fucking infestors. You got 14 broodlords, 16 corruptors, and 6 vipers. Broodlords, once again, are stacked right here. Corruptors are right next to it as well. This time, instead of backing up and trying to bait a fungal, because his army is mostly tank Viking, instead of backing up and baiting a fungal, you just literally just auto-attack with your broodlords right here. So they all start smashing the tanks and the turrets. As soon as his as soon as his Vikings come forward to try and contest your broodlords, you contest his Vikings with your corruptor, and then behind that, you just throw out like 3 parasitic bombs. Like bomb, bomb, bomb. Across his concave. And suddenly all his shit just gets destroyed. How is he going to deal with that? Like, how does he ever deal with that with what he has? He doesn't. His army, his only real anti-air is literally Vikings. And I'm not going to lie, Vikings are better than infestors when it's like mass Viking to fight Broodlord and Corruptor. If it's just air units, basically, Vikings actually do a better job at controlling the area than infestors do, because bomb is so much more of a scary spell for an air unit than a fungal is. Fungal is just more, an infestor is just a more universal unit. So if instead of having only 3 Thors, if he had like 8 Thors and like only 4 tanks, then I would be like, yeah, infestors would be better, because then you have neural parasite to rely on as well. Vipers suck ass against Thors. They're not great. They can still do something, but they're not as good as infestors are. But there's a lot of ways you can deal with it. The worst way is going, let's keep going Hydras, boys. Hydras and a death ball. They're just bad. They're not, the Hydras are not death ball units. Roaches are not death ball units. Zorglings are not death ball units. Banelings are very rarely ever death ball units, but sometimes they actually can apply. It's specific, but it's rare. We'll just say most of the time, no. What else is there? The Queens are not death ball units. What else? Swarm hosts are not death ball units. And Ultralisks are not death ball units. Ravagers are not death ball units. If you're gonna go for a death ball and you're gonna let your opponent max out, a Ravager's kind of close. A Ravager's also kind of like a Baneling, I guess. Ravagers are kind of like situational. Lurkers are not death ball units, but they actually have purpose with a death ball. That's why I didn't say Lurker. Like if I'm fighting a Protoss player and he's counterattacking me with a bunch of zealots constantly, and he's also got a Skytoss army, I'm obviously not going to be like, let's shove him with 10 Lurkers in my army. With his army. No, it's stupid. But what I could do is I could have like a couple Lurkers spread out around my base, and I'm like, oh look, I have 6 Spine Crawlers or 10 Spine Crawlers and 2 Lurkers fighting against 16 zealots warping in to attack my mineral line. But now suddenly lurkers and spines fucking shit on zealots. So they actually have purpose with Deathwall. But yeah, like a lot of these other units don't. And I think it's a common misconception with a lot of Zerg players out there that think that going Hydras all game every game is how you're supposed to play. It only makes sense. Like it's fine to go Hydras all the time if you're a lower level player, but if you start playing against higher level players, the only time it makes sense to go Hydras is if you're in the phase of the game where Hydras make sense, in mid game, where your supply is like 130, 120, something like that. Or if you're playing a style that is hyper aggressive and you're maxing out, but you're constantly attacking your opponent and you're making your opponent bleed out over and over, and you're just trying to replace faster than he can because Hydra and Roach, whatever, that army can replace itself quickly, and it takes a while to be like, hold on, let me just make like 12 tanks. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just be like, snap my fingers, I have 12 tanks. But you can go, I suddenly have 30 Hydras and 20 Roaches. That's the power of Zerg. So if you want to go Hydras all game, you better be fucking aggressive, and you better not let the Terran max out. That's the only way that works. And if you're just letting the Terran max out and you're just sitting there chilling on Hydras, you are definitely not playing it right. You are allowing them to have a superiority over you. That's like saying, I'm going to go Roaches, and I'm going to go mass Roaches early, and the benefit, the pro of Roaches is I could have 180 supply and Protoss would have 130. But you know what? I'm just going to fucking sit here, and I'm going to wait till he maxes out on Immortals, and I'm going to max out on Roaches. And then I'll take a fight. Obviously, every Zerg out there knows that can totally happen. Like, if you're just chilling, sitting there, and if you let that happen, you just automatically lose the game. You're dead. You're like, oh wow, these Immortals are really good. Well, so are Siege Tanks, and so are Thors, and so is Mech in general. If you're going for low tier. Honestly, the way I would kind of like, last thing I'll say, okay, for Zerg, for like a Zerg player to relate to. Zerg players out there that know Zerg versus Zerg, okay? You're a Zerg player and you're going into Roach style. You're going Roach Ravager. That's all you're doing. You're just a Roach Ravager player. This is the equivalent of one player going Roach Ravager all game, and another player going Roach Ravager Lurker, Roach Ravager Muta, Roach Ravager fucking Viper Lurker. Like, this guy has definitely got a way better composition than this guy. And the guy going Roach Ravager is just saying, fuck it, I don't know, let's attack. And we're both maxed. Well, obviously the guy who has a less efficient army is going to die. They're just... But the thing is, though, about this game specifically for Sapien is he had the ability to do a better army. He just chose to keep Hydras in the army, which are terrible. Hopefully I made sense. I hope it makes sense for that comparison I gave you. You're just having an army composition that's weak as fuck. Super weak. Anyways, this is another replay analysis brought to you by me, Mr. ViBE. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you liked it. Thank you for watching it. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the follow button on Twitch. I do lots of these all the time. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, have a great day. Have a great night. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace, everybody. Bye.